absolutely adore this woman. I cannot wait until I get to meet her face to face. Since we've met since the pandemic, and she's in Florida and I'm in Las Vegas. We haven't got to meet each other face to face, but I'm really looking forward to it. Tiffany McQuaid, thank you so much for being on my program.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Every time we have conversations, I feel like we end up deep diving into all of these fun things, and I always walk away being so inspired. So thank you for including me.
Well, I when you and I were talking the other day, and I was like, oh my goodness, I really need to tell the world this part of your story because, the pandemic has hit us all in a lot of different ways. And there's a lot of people out there that, whether you're in the real estate business or you're in some other kind of business, are struggling. And you really took a look at what was going on and found yourself a way to pivot and make a really dramatic but successful change for your business. So, but before we go there, my first question is, were you a leader as a child?
Well, it makes me giggle because if my mother were alive right now and she told you this story, you would be laughing ear to ear. So I've always been what she deemed to have an overactive imagination. So always creating, always doing things. I challenged her, as we would say in our office, to the nth degree, not the nth degree, but I would do growing up, I would do a yard sale while she was at work and sell off all of her stuff, like her business suits that I didn't particularly like, and she had these clocks that were collectibles. And I sold those off for a quarter each. Needless to say, I was grounded for life more times than I cared to fill you in on. I would sell the groceries that she would go get on Saturday during summer vacation. We lived, kind of in a rural area, so there were no stores or anything directly around us. So when she would leave for work on Monday, I'd implement and I'd set up my tables and stuff in the front, and I'd sell all of the Little Debbie snack cakes off to the neighborhood kids. And I only got found out because I would give my sister like a portion of the profits, so it kept her quiet. The only reason why she found out was because she was putting some clothes away, and my sister is in one of her drawers and found a stash of these Little Debbie snack cakes. And my mom said, "Why are these in your drawer?" And she said, "Because Tiff sells them off every Monday, so I needed to make sure." So do you believe she made me reimburse her for all of back then the boxes were like a quarter, for a whole box of them in the 80s. But she made me pay her for the actual cost of them, but I got to keep the profit, aside from the split that I gave my sister to be quiet.
I love it. You were
So
born a salesperson.
so to answer your question, yes, I was ever evolving in probably more entrepreneurial avenues as opposed to what's probably normal and customary for kids my age.
Yeah, I would say so. I love it. So, what is one thing that you learned being this entrepreneur, stealing your mom's food? What was one lesson that you learned that you still use today as a leader?
Well, probably the best one that I would say, my mom always said, work hard and do the right things, and the money will always come. And that kind of has always resonated with me because I'm probably one of those rare, well, I know there's many people like me out there, but I'm not led by money. That isn't what motivates me. I recognize for business, obviously we have to hit our goals, our bottom lines, all of those things. But, I'm more about really elaborating on the experience and making it special and doing special touches and, those types of things. And that little quote that my mom gave me has never failed me. Granted, it's been a journey. There's been a ton of ups and downs on this entrepreneurial avenue that I've been on, but boy, have I learned a lot of lessons. But that one quote has never failed me.
That is a magnificent quote, actually. I think
Thank you.
it's one we could all live by for sure. for
Yeah.
sure.
She was a special lady.
Yeah. I was very blessed like that too. My mom, I lived on a farm in Nebraska. And, this was back in the 50s.
Mhm.
And, back then women were, in the kitchen, they were having babies, and they were a secretary or a teacher, but they weren't really out in the world being workers, right?
Yeah.
And my mom, she was out there milking the cows, butchering the pigs, gathering the eggs, slaughtering the chickens, canning the fruit, canning the vegetables, um, plowing the fields.
Yeah.
And then she would come in and she would make, she was a wonderful baker and a wonderful cook. And the
Mhm.
house was always spotless. You could have eaten off the floors.
Right.
And she had a full-time job.
Yeah.
So she did not have to open her mouth. She showed me by example
Yeah.
that I could do anything that I want to do.
Yeah.
And, those are very special ladies that teach us those valuable lessons for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit. So I'm talking a lot about resiliency because,
Yes.
and actually NAR this year, their focus is on sustainability,
Oh,
resiliency, and
good.
safety.
Good.
Yes. And so resiliency in the emergency world is about how to build back better. And they talk about resiliency of infrastructure or a community or whatever. And it's really
Mhm.
about how you can mitigate to build back better. And
Right.
I want to equate that to your business.
Oh,
Tell
thank you.
me a little bit about your business before the pandemic.
Sure. Well, I think much like everyone, we had kind of a good start so prior to the pandemic, the start of the year for us is what we call our season here in Florida. So from January to Easter, whenever Easter may fall, that's when we have all the snowbirds. So we've got an abundance of people. And the start of pandemic year, we were off to an amazing start because it was our busy time, and we were coming off of a really good year, as well. So it was very hard to go into lockdowns, so to speak, in our prime time when you know that this is not just us in the real estate industry, but all the businesses in our area. That's where they make their money is in season, and much like many places like that during the summer up north and what have you. So it became abundantly clear as time was going on, that we were going to have to really get creative, and start thinking of not just about us and our future, but about those around us, our neighbors, other businesses that we love to support and be a part of. So kind of sat back and re-strategized. So, okay, how can we not just help our neighbors in real estate, and the communities and things that we serve, but how can we help our fellow businesses? What do we have to offer that we can help promote them and encourage hand in hand sales and things? So we did a plethora of campaigns for restaurants and aligning with them. And, I was doing regular deliveries to all my clients. To their doorstep that I called kind of surprise and delight days, would have pizzas delivered, whatever. And I was rotating through my customers. So twice a week, I'd have deliveries sent out to my customers to not only support the restaurants, but to, give them something to kind of look forward to. The other kind of avenue and arena that we looked at, and that also covered in social media as well. So we really stepped up with that through social. The other avenue was sitting back and saying, okay, for my company, marketing is really what we're known for. We're very much outside the box, extremely creative, extremely creative, and progressive. We want to get out ahead of what's coming, what's happening. So I always keep my thumb and my finger on the pulse of obviously the market and the industry, but I always stay on the pulse of what's going on nationally because I know eventually we kind of lag behind a little bit down here in terms of what's happening. So if I pay attention to the pulse points throughout the country, then I can better prepare for getting out ahead of it, so to speak, on what we need to do. So I could see, and I was just diving into every Zoom call and meeting and everything that I could do industry wise during that time on overdrive, and recognizing that early on, that there was probably going to be an inventory issue. And I didn't know like to what degree it was going to happen, but I was sensing it. I was seeing it. I personally was starting to see it. We had a lot of things going on. So I kind of started pounding the pavement and calling all of our regional and local builders. And saying, look, we have this incredible marketing company. We can work on things, together for you so that whatever projects you have going on, keep you present. And, how can we help? That's what we kept kind of putting out. How can we help? Well, what happened as a result of that is forming a new construction development and marketing division, and then signing on some of these developers to exclusively market. And we're talking everything from naming to logo design to all the promotional items, everything to exclusively selling. And then also my title company, working directly with them and my attorney, working with them directly to close the projects. So, once built. So that became an avenue that I'm not even sure at the time we really recognized how powerful and impactful that was going to be. But it has been just a massive, massive, massive turning point for us. So, those two were probably, two of the largest things that we did. But then we also looked at, okay, our customers. So we have our sellers, our listings. How can we continue to show them that we're taking our role and our commitment to them, despite the lockdown, very seriously? So we put together some open house tour commercials on television and put them out. I did the voiceovers. We had to do whatever we could do at home. So my creative team kind of put together a standardized format. I did all the voiceovers, used my radio background from years ago, and sent those over. They then turned them into, these magical pieces. And then we started running them all over our cable networks here. Just, to really keep that presence there, and give a little bit of hope. That knowing once we come out of this, hey, there's possibilities out there and we're ready for you. So we did that. And then we also, our main customer, our realtors, we wanted them to really be highlighted and get people to understand their uniqueness and what they have to offer, and create a customer connection again on the other side of the television. So we also put together spots for our realtors that we started putting out, and just kind of allowing that one-on-one opportunity with whoever was watching to perhaps resonate with one of our team members, and pick up the phone and call them at some point. And it's been very interesting to see how it's evolved, because it's made several of them very recognizable, and also just so much talkability. And I see you. Hey, I know you. So it's been really, really exciting to watch.
I what you just said was absolutely brilliant. I think just being able to, first of all, thinking outside of the box, and which I'm sure you got from when you were a kid, thinking outside of the box of how you can make money has really helped you in these last couple of years, because you're thinking outside of the box, and
Right.
you have the marketing background, so you kind of know how to do that. And then to be able to move forward in the way you have, and highlight your realtors and highlight your sellers and all those kinds of things and that's one of the things that I love the most about watching what's happened in the real estate industry as a whole. I mean, people that are my age, we're not much big into technology. I'm a little more into it than some, but we don't really want to try this new virtual stuff and doing this and doing that. And I still have people that don't want to do Zoom and that sort of thing. But we, people that were in the real estate business they had to they had to step up to the plate and learn about virtual showings and learning about the Zoom and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So in that respect, I think it's really benefited the industry as a whole into
Yeah.
kind of bringing them into the 21st century.
Right. I
All,
completely concur.
but what you have done is just really, it's a lesson. And my audience is primarily real estate, but there are people that watch that are not real estate oriented. I
Okay.
want you to take what she's done and I want you to think about your business and think outside the box a little bit. Buying pizzas, you were helping the restaurants and you were helping the people that were stuck at home have something different for dinner. I
Yeah.
mean, that was brilliant on your part.
Yeah.
Having your realtors highlighting them. So now there's some of them are well-known names. I mean, what that has done for their careers and for your company is enormous. And then
Well,
looking for a different market. I mean, that all of that is just brilliant.
well, and I think, the most important thing that I think we all learned through that is exactly what you were saying earlier is resiliency. And, I think people sometimes are so afraid to fall down. There's a fear that prevents them from pushing the envelope or going outside the box, but nobody ever achieved anything great inside their comfort zone, right? One of the things that we did, and I'll never forget it because I had talked about it. I had done a podcast during the lockdown. And at that time, we were employing utilizing some direct mail in the communities, but we weren't pushing properties. What we were doing is sending out giant postcards, and it was activities for them to do within their home. So,
Oh,
like for Easter, we mailed out these giant postcards that they could cut out these Easter bunnies and put them in their window. And it allowed people to go around with their kids and spot and count how many rabbits they found in the windows. So it gave like a family oriented outdoor activity. Some of them were like word search puzzles about their community. We did tons of activities like that, tons. And then they would text us. We would have them take a photo of like, if it was a word puzzle or whatever, take a photo and text it to me. And then we would take and drop off little prizes to all their doors.
oh,
And like even, the rabbits, they would text however many they counted. And then, I would take and drop off like little gifts, for the kids and what have you. So what ended up happening there that I think people meaning realtors really need to think about going forward as a result of that is, the holy grail of marketing is that you're creating this top of mind awareness and recognition. So they think of you first. That's it, right? That's what you're going after. Well, marketing, as we all know, if you get a postcard in the mail, it's typically just listed, just sold, nothing outstanding that's going to not make the trash within 2 to 3 seconds. But when you're all of a sudden, doing things like this that are causing multiple levels of engagement. So think about it, like for example, the bunny mailer. So they're now getting this. And it was met with resistance when I was doing this podcast, people saying, well, should you be mailing during a pandemic and germs? Well, at that point, there was risk everywhere. I was still getting mail from places. So I thought, you know what? This is a feel good on the other end. I'm not pushing property here. Yeah, it just so happens, that our team sells property. But the main goal of that, our hearts were in the best place that we're putting out something. So just think about the very kind of process. So you're getting it, you're reading it, then you're actually physically cutting out that rabbit, then you're putting it in the window so that kids can enjoy it. And then we ask them to move it to various different windows like every week. So it was like a 3-week, keep it up for 3 weeks. And I mean, to just drive through the neighborhood. So now they're hanging it, and then the next week they're moving it, and of course, what are they thinking? Who are they thinking of? They've gone
Absolutely.
through this process. So now you've got all these families and people. I mean, it wasn't just families. I had, individual elderly owner, all age ranges, going around and counting. So now they're going through that process, they're counting. Now they're sending, via text, they're sending however many they found. So I'm engaging, saying, thank you so much. It's, I was putting some crazy little, like somebody, I don't know, so some cute little taglines that I know made them smile on the other end. So there was some engagement that happened there. Then I would go leave a little surprise at their door. So then they're reaching out, thanking you, so you're having these multiple recalls of you,
Absolutely.
it's not just about, I think, the industry going forward, it's not just about just listed, just sold, how much volume you've done. It's not about that. Now it's got to be about going that extra mile, going that extra step, showing that you truly care, making a connection in multiple avenues, not just one, not just one. Just because you put a social media post up, and maybe you post every day, like I do. I'm very regimented. For the most part, I post every day, pretty much. But, it's not just about that. It has to cross over varying platforms. It has to touch their heart. It has to register in their mind. And in the perfect world, they're connecting with authenticity. They feel your authenticity. They don't feel that you're trying to just get their money or get their listing or, what have you, a one and done, I'm going to sell you a property and then you're never going to hear from me again. It's about making that true connection authentically, purely, and with the best of intention.
I have to tell you, well, that was brilliant, number one, but you actually just described kind of what happened to me.
Really?
So I had written a little 3-hour course for the California Association of Realtors on disasters, and
Mhm.
I presented it in October at their big convention. I did a live training, and then I also presented to their professional development education committee. And I had a panel there of a FEMA director, the head of the CERT program for LA County, the gentleman who was the association executive in Santa Barbara when they had the fires and the mudslides, and another woman that went through the Malibu fires. And I'm sitting and I'm moderating this panel, and I'm realizing that there's so much more that needs to be said that a real estate agent could take to their community and truly make a difference.
Yes.
So that was in October, and by January, I had written out an outline for a 4-course certification. And little did I know that I was going to be quarantined in March. And, and thank God, because I was supposed to go speak here and go there, and I had all these trips planned. And I sat on my friend's sofa and I wrote this certification. And I wrote it with the idea being, okay, we're sitting in this situation and I'm watching what's happening in the real estate industry, and everybody's quarantined. They can't go to the office. They're all stuck. And I'm thinking, okay, this is a tool that they can take out to their community and truly make a difference. It's
Yeah.
one more tool in their toolkit. And so I put together this program where, okay, you get your certification. And once you have that certification, every single month, I give you some kind of a new tool. So it's kind of like this month is Easter, next month it's, whatever, Memorial Day or whatever,
Yeah.
4th of July. And so every single month now there's something new that they can take out to their community to be able to be the star, to be the one that shines and do exactly what you did during the pandemic. I mean, that is absolutely. And I think you're right about the authenticity. If you're going out and you're helping people, whatever the risk factors are in your particular area, and I'm not just talking about natural disasters. It could be
Mhm.
a natural disaster. It could be some other type of crisis. It could be a man-made disaster like the pandemic. It could be all kinds of things. But if you are the person going out there and handing out all those bunnies or whatever it is that you're
Yeah.
doing, or giving information that could be life-saving,
Yeah.
um, then who are they going to call? They're
Right.
going to call you.
Right.
because you're authentic and you're doing something to give back to the community. I think what you did was just absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. And, the reality is, and the reality is you're never going to win all the business, you
Yeah.
know, but whatever business you're gifted with, to me, it's truly a blessing, number one, that you're getting it. And I think sometimes people forget that, they get so lost in status quo that they forget that, this is a family selling because they're going through a divorce, or, here's someone having a new baby and needs more space. I see that so often in the industry that people, they get it, they see, they go into the listing appointment, they hear what's happening, but they tend to forget that, through the process, the human element to it, and how can they delight them through the process, how can they surprise them through the process. And going back to what you were saying about what you're doing, and that's really when we've talked previously, I really, really respect and admire that. And I think probably great minds think alike in terms of, that little diversification there. So I love it. Great job. But, for us, and we've been through hurricanes, a massive one in 2017 that I thought I was going to lose my business, and if it weren't for going that extra mile and with our customers, which we did a ton of. I mean, I was wading through water, going to check on people that I didn't even know, because, you put out offering services on social media. If you've got a loved one that you haven't heard from, let me know, and my office will go check on it, check on them for you. And, again, that was a big outreach time. And even after that, we did a big hurricane relief concert called Naples is Rockin' with Sugar Ray that the county had retained us to put together, of which we volunteered. My entire team volunteered their time and efforts to put together, that concert and kind of honor our first responders and, what have you. So, and raise money, a good amount of money. But it's so important that it's diversity. It's not just real estate. It's not just the tangible asset that you're being gifted to sell or work with someone to buy. That it isn't just that. And I think we're all seeing that. And we saw that during coming out of the lockdown. What happened? People then, okay, inventory slimming. People all of a sudden, they're going on all these massive search engines, realtor.com, Zillow, what have you. They're looking at properties on their own. Well, then it became, well, I'm just going to go directly to the listing agent because it's such a competitive market. That may give me a bigger advantage, and I'm not saying that's correct. We all know it's not, but, there are those out there that their value is not as predominant or as proven, and I think going forward in the industry, as we see compression of transaction, we're seeing ease of information direct to the consumer. Where's your value?
Right.
Where is your value? You have to pinpoint it now, come up with the 5 best things. Your 5, as I always call them, shiny pennies. Your 5 best shiny pennies that you have to offer a customer on the other end. And you just really target those and really put that out there so that people understand working with you. This is why, this is why you should work with me. I bring this to the table. I'm going to protect you, or no matter whatever the case may be, figure those things out and then make that your mission. On both the listing side, you do listing appointments. Now you're going to have to start doing buyer appointments too. You're going to have a buyer presentation, much like you have for a listing presentation, ready to go. Because why should they, where's your value?
Absolutely.
What are you going to bring to that buyer for them to work with you. And potentially, you know, there's a lot of variables there for them right now that they're all questioning, and we're all seeing it, you know. So without that value figured out, people are this industry, I think, believe is going to be hard pressed going forward. You know, there's going to be a lot of people scrambling to make a good living, and you see it. The cream rises to the crop, or
Absolutely.
to the top.
To the top, yeah.
Not to the crop, to the top. Maybe
Well,
whatever.
I think one of the things that you mentioned was, and I talk a lot about this in my training, is that when something does happen, it doesn't necessarily have to be a pandemic. It doesn't necessarily have to be a hurricane, but cities and towns and communities and businesses go through things. And if you, as the real estate agent, are able to step in and be that shiny penny, and you have to do it with authenticity. You can't go in there and just fake it. But if you are able to do that, just like I always say that disasters are an amazing crystalline moment. Crystalline means sparkly clear, so moments of clarity.
Yeah.
And they create incredible gifts and opportunities that if you are thinking out of the side of the box like you did, then you are able to capture those people that you're helping. And it's such a strong statement to your character, to your business, what you're committed to. Those are all invaluable tools that once the disaster or crisis or whatever is over, it's just going to grow your business that much more because of it.
Right. Well, and sometimes you have to give to get, and genuinely, you know, giving. But I will say one other thing that I would like to add to that, if that's okay with you, is, you know, going to real estate school and getting, you know, your license is not the end of your education. And it has to be consistent. It has to be on a regular basis. I mean, to me, if you are not reading industry related book, an entrepreneurial book, a customer service book, a hospitality book, anything that will give you, that you could walk away with little nuggets of additional value. And actually reading like that will help you come up with your 5 shiny pennies of value, because you're going to be able to pull out things, you know, from some of those learning experiences. But whether it's motivational speaker, you know, whatever it is, you have to constantly be doing that, because that's where your value is truly going to come in, is in the knowledge base, not only knowledge of the market that you are servicing. You know, if you're farming an area, know the front elevations of all those properties, know all the different floor plans and their names, know the names of all the roads within that area, like the back of your hand. You know where different people live, so that when you're taking a customer through that, you know, may have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, you know, that's looking at a property that maybe just so happens to have similarly aged children, you know, 2 doors down. Those are parts of the value added components that most people don't think of, you know, most realtors don't think of. And that to me is a huge service. And I will say one other thing. This is my other little pet peeve. So if you've got a listing in a community, let's say, and you know, market it, you put your best foot forward, okay, and you're doing your best job, and you get it into MLS, and all of a sudden the phone's ringing off the hook with all these showings. Please, please, please remember, your value to your seller is to think of anything and everything when you're putting that home on the market, because your job is to get them the highest price possible and the best terms possible for their life and what they're desiring, right? Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I see people make all the time, that to me is an immediate depletion of value, it's a perception of value, is if you're showing the property and scheduling showings on days, trash days within a marketplace. Because think about it, whether you're, you know, in Florida and your listings in a gated community, or you're anywhere else in the country that maybe is not gated, and maybe trash cans are mismatched or what have you, you know, ours coordinate down here, but still, you know, having trash out and showing a property, and imagine whether you've got the customer in your car or they're following you and they're going to this residence for the first time that you're representing, and you're driving them down the street, they're following you in anticipation of getting to the property. It's perception of value. They may not even realize it at the time, but if they're passing by a house and the trash cans have been tipped over because the trash, got picked up, or maybe it hadn't, and there's 10 bags and there's a sofa, that somebody had put to the curb that day, these are things that mentally start depleting people's perception of value before you even get them to the door. So, you hear people talking about curb appeal, and it's so important. First impressions, super, super important. But people, meaning realtors, tend to overlook the incredible value of showing on non-trash days. So that's going to be
so much
my
sense.
little tidbit, because the drive, through any neighborhood, especially if they're excited, that's an important drive. That's an important drive to get to that front door. And if, it just so happens to be that the neighbor has just trimmed a massive tree and there's, 3,000 pieces of trunk, sitting there, and the next neighbor's got, an old washing machine sitting there. I mean, and then you're getting to the property, you don't know, you can't control what other people around you are doing. So just really think that through, because it's your job to get your seller the highest price possible. And you have to think through all of those variables that add to that value.
In all the years I have been talking to real estate agents, never once did somebody ever bring up that point. And what an important point that is. Oh my God, I cannot wait to share. I'm going to start sharing that with everybody because it is.
Well, but you know what? It does come down to perception of value, and especially it's a similar thing if you're going into a community where a developer maybe had like 4 or 5 floor plans and it's a lot of like-minded properties. The perception of value instantly shifts when someone says, for example, well, I really like the Palmetto floor plan, show me all the Palmetto floor plans. So you're going from one to another. What's the one major differentiator in terms of perception of value that they won't even realize raise their value? What do you think it is?
Curb appeal, the door, the front door.
Well, curb appeal, yes, you're absolutely correct. But the one thing at that moment of impact is crown molding. So if you walk them into a property, and I will tell you, I've done this myself, it's been like a personal research. I like to do these little research things. But if at that moment of impact, if they're going into like-kind floor plans or property after property after property, and they walk into one that has nice crown molding and all the other properties don't, they won't even realize really the reason why they're feeling a little more high, there's a higher value point there. They won't even realize it. But it ultimately ends up being those properties will sell faster, at least in our market. So I'm sure it's got to be the same area. Have those types of little details, and it's a cheap fix, it's a cheap thing to do. But the perception of value just goes through the roof at the moment of impact.
That's very, very smart. Very smart. Well, I tell you what, Tiffany, every time you and I talk, I learn something, first of all, and I just really admire how you think about things, how you come up with these little tidbits. I mean, the next time I drive down a street and the trash cans are out, I'm going to be thinking differently about it.
Yeah. Hey, and one other thing that I'm going to add to that, actually, and I'll leave you on this note, is your real estate sign. Oh my goodness. So thinking about the trash can, when you put that sign out, and I always say no sign is a sign of no business, but it's not just about having a sign in the yard. It's about your presence. If your presence isn't out there, nobody's going to call you. But when you do get that listing, woohoo, and you go put that sign in the yard, please do not put out like an old decrepit looking sign or one with multiple different colored riders or a sign that's been faded by the weather or what have you, take pride in your sign. Go polish it. I drive by, for 20 years, I've been selling in the same community that I live in and have been blessed to have market share for all 20 years in that community. But I go out there, I drive by, I keep my window cleaner in the back of my car and a roll of paper towels. And I go by regularly and make sure that those signs, we have sprinklers here, so they get little spots on them. But I make sure that those signs are cleaned and spit shined and whatever, whatever it takes. Because again, it's like the curb appeal. It's their first impression to you, and I see people.
First time, but you're going to be the one that they're going to judge.
Yeah, I see people. I have one main road that I drive down on my way to work, and it's just kind of an open area. And that is like my area of personal research every morning and every night on my way home. And I watch all the real estate signs, that go up and down there. And I mean, it's just insane to me that people can, that, our industry is not elevating more to take more pride in, hey, your name's on this sign. You have just now listed someone's most valuable or one of their most valuable assets that they own.
Absolutely.
You have to spend money to make money sometimes. And for goodness sakes, a sign, a sign, a sign.
Well, it's like your front yard business card. I mean, you wouldn't hand out a business card that's torn or ripped or had writing on it or something. You just wouldn't hand that out. It's the same thing when it comes to a sign.
Yeah. You wouldn't give them one with chewing gum folded over the corner, right? Your business card, you're going to put your best foot forward. You're right. So absolutely. I like that front yard business card. Perfect.
Now, thank you. I've got one little plug I have to give because it's coming out next week. This is my new book that can be an extra tool in what Tiffany's talking about. It's called When the Unthinkable Happens, Be Prepared, Be Ready. And it can be customized. You can put your information in the book. And it makes an incredible gift. It's for consumers as well as small businesses. It'll give them invaluable information on how to prepare, how to be sustainable, and what kind of plans you need to have to be prepared. So my little plug, thank you very much. Tiffany, it's been a joy. What can I say? It's just been an absolute joy. So, all right, everybody.
Thank you so much.
You have to take a lot of you'll have to go back and listen to this again because it was loaded with amazing tips and information. And now you can see how she's pivoted so well and how she's changed the course of her company through a pandemic and lots of other disasters as well. So thank you, Tiffany, for joining me. Everyone, thank you. I've got another interview coming up soon with Kick Butt Leadership. Bye now.